Hello and welcome back to the Platinum Guide for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Alright friends, let's continue. Last time we took down the dragon. Sorry again that it's taking a bit longer these days. I'm currently under quite a bit of time pressure. But of course I'd still appreciate it if you give a thumbs up, and of course we'll finish this up here friends. Because today we're first going to get, yes, a very special hairstyle for Verso, the skinhead hairstyle. And actually we can get it for every character. So guys, let's get started. And here we go. First we're going to head down here to this little island. There's a special mime here, the strongest mime in the game, that you have to defeat once, namely the Sunless Cliff mime. And here you should of course adjust your Pictos a bit so that as a owl solo fighter you deal more damage. There's a Picto that gives you 100% critical hits when fighting alone. You should equip that to your character in order to get this reward. You can defeat this mime with any character to get the special hairstyle, and of course you'll have to see how many times you want to do that. But in any case, we'll go in once and grab the secret hairstyle. Go to the checkpoint, rest and upgrade yourself properly again. You really need a lot of power now, because this is a solo fight and you can, for example, do it with Verso or with Maelle. Of course you can do that as well. And yes, as a reward you'll get a very special hairstyle, namely the skinhead hairstyle or bald. Or I think it's even called pure. In any case, we'll go in here once and take down the Dark Mime. With Maelle, this really shouldn't be a problem at all, and once you've defeated him, you'll also receive the Picto, the last point. When you use this Picto, you'll be left with 1 HP. Yes, there's also a special build for it, but in the end, we don't actually use it here, so you don't need to learn it for this guide either. That's all we need to do here. For example, I went through the whole thing again with Verso, but of course you can do it however you like. You can get this special outfit for every character here if you defeat the Mimey, but there isn't a special trophy for it. Okay, so we've collected all the outfits we wanted, and now Verso is bald, which looks pretty weird and very unusual. I tried it out briefly, but I couldn't get used to it and switched it back. Anyway, let's move on friends and head back to the Monolith. I actually wasn't supposed to tell you where it is. You already know it's at the end of the map, so just head into the Monolith until you reach the checkpoint at the Monolith summit. Of course, you can also just teleport there. And once you arrive, there's a little secret boss here who gives you a pretty good Pictos, namely Combo Attack 2. And since you now have Combo Attack 1 and can combine it with Combo Attack 2, you can basically attack 3 times with a standard attack, which is obviously pretty good. So go ahead and take out the secret boss in the Monolith here. You already know where to find the Monolith. Just make your way through or use fast travel, and you'll get the Pictos Combo Attack 2 here. So if you now use the Pictos Combo Attack 2 and also have Combo Attack 1 equipped, your character will perform 3 standard strikes, which is pretty good, especially for building your AP back up, and above all for increasing gradient attack, since there's a Pictos that increases your gradient charge when you perform standard attacks. And of course you should combine that as well. That way you'll always fill up your charge very quickly. Alright, with that, we've taken care of it friends. Don't forget that you still have to complete all the mini games. It's always a bit of a pain of course, but here's another Gestral beach. Don't forget that guys, but for now we'll continue in our Gestral village, and yeah, as I said, all the mini games are important for the trophy. We can head back into Gestral village again now. It's not going to do a whole lot right now, but there are still a few things we can do here. We can walk over to the right here. You can still see that sleeping guy over there. Of course we could have done this right at the beginning, but yeah, some people complained about it. But honestly, I always find this action a bit unpleasant because he's just sleeping here and is actually a pretty laid-back guy. And if we destroy his mirror here now, he'll wake up and ask if we want to rob him, and then we actually do rob him, and yeah, then it leads to a fight. Of course, he wants to defend his home, and that's why this whole thing always feels a bit, well, I don't really know. So beating the guy up for 1000 Chroma just feels a bit weird to me. That's why we didn't do it before either. Well, just finish the fight here. That way it's included in the guide at least once. You know how it works now, and we basically robbed him. Yeah, then of course we could also go to Golgra again and do the solo fight here one more time. But honestly, it doesn't really get you much if you beat her. Of course, you can do this with any character. With Maelle, we'd get her weapon, but we've already had that since the very beginning anyway. So, it's actually pointless to go back to Golgra again. Of course, you can still do it just for the challenge, and you'll get a bit of XP. And as I said, with Maelle, for example, you get her weapon, but since we already have it, it'll just be converted into Chroma right away. By the way, you can do this with any character. So we're still missing one skill for Monoco, specifically the one at the top right, and we're going to get that now, friends. That's the last skill, and then we'll also get Monoco's Foot Collector trophy, and yeah, otherwise you should already have all the skills here if you've been following the guide. So now we're heading into the Endless Tower, friends. The Endless Tower is easy to find after all. It's all the way on the left side here, at this big golden circle. So we'll just fly over there, and then we can go inside. I actually imagined it a bit differently. In fact, you just have to go to the portrait here and then complete all the trials, friends. It gets tough starting at 10 to 2, and at that point you should definitely have Monoco's ice skill equipped, which slows down all enemies. That skill really works wonders here in the tower, and gives you a big advantage when you slow down all the enemies, letting you take more turns. Then go inside trial 10 2. Let me quickly show you. This is where you'll face the first really strong enemies. And yeah, the best way to deal with them, as I said, is to always have Monoco immediately. Use the ice step or so you can slow down the enemies. Otherwise, they'll get so many turns that you'll basically have to parry every attack. And with Maelle, it's best to always use Phantom Strike, so we can build up our gradient charge quickly. Yeah, and that way it actually works out pretty well. So here, definitely when Monoco gets a turn, use the ice enchantment right away for the first time and slow everyone down. That's really important so you can get more turns. Yeah, once you've taken them all out, you should also make sure to increase your gradient effects. So of course things like gradient break and attack, basically anything at all that gives you gradient charge, or so that you can quickly and efficiently use Gomage with Maelle just to keep your momentum going as well as you move forward and maintain your pace. This is going to be pretty important now because some enemies are coming up that have a lot of HP. And things like Charged Critical are also really important to equip. Yeah, that way you can take out the enemies here pretty easily, in case you're still having trouble. Basically with Gomage you can destroy everything here, but the enemies do get a lot of turns. That's why you should definitely use Slow, even if you have it on a different character. It's also best to make your party fast, then you'll get through just fine. Then head into 10-3, and in my opinion things get a bit easier again there. You can take out these two guys here pretty quickly. They didn't give me any trouble at all, so let's just finish them off quickly. Then we get the Pictos considerably weakened, and that thing is actually pretty decent. You should definitely learn it and try to equip it later on. We also get a bit of luminous color, and of course can move on to the next trial, which is 11-1. And now we're up against some pretty tough opponents, but it's not all that difficult, folks. It's best to always try to take out the one in the middle first. Of course, use Phantom Stars and ideally increase the break damage with Verso, so that the one on the left always gets broken. You can see that his gauge fills up pretty quickly, and you can break the left opponent quite well. Otherwise, of course, still use Gomage with Maelle again. Oh, it's pretty straightforward. When you use that, it's best not to use it on the duelist because the duelist has a lot of HP. and you should try to take out the other enemies first. Here I did use it on him in an unguarded state, which doesn't do much damage, kind of a silly move, but as you can see, the duelist loses very little from it. That's why you want to make sure you take out all the other enemies first, and then you can fight him gradually with all three of you against him alone. Otherwise, as I said, use Verse of Phantom Stars and also perform normal attacks to fill up your gradient charge relatively quickly. And you can see that Phantom Stars always break him pretty quickly, and yeah, then you can take him on pretty well. And that's kind of the secret. Definitely increase Verso's break damage and also the break gauge, meaning how quickly it charges. We then receive significantly weakened and Pictos, and I also learned anti-frozen just now, so especially anti-frozen or anti-burn, you could of course learn those as well. Let's go into Trial 11-2, and that's where things get a bit more challenging. Here we also get Monoco's foot. You can just take out the enemies here. Now you'll get the Foot Collector trophy here. They should be relatively easy to handle. And then we move on to the last one, which is Painted Love. Yeah, things get pretty tricky here again, folks. Try to use Monoco's foot as quickly as possible here too, so you can slow down the enemies, because they're already quite strong. When you use normal attacks, always target the one on the left, since he takes more damage and his guard breaks faster. Of course, you'll need to dodge a few attacks as well. I'm not that good at dodging them either. I have to admit, their attacks are pretty unpredictable. Yeah, and especially the monoliths are really strong, but when you attack normally, always try to focus on the one on the left. In general, use all your single target attacks always on the left enemy to break him relatively quickly. Yeah, other than that, there's really not much more to say here. Of course, use Virtuoso stance with Maelle to deal a ton of damage to Gomage. It's also best if the enemies are burning. Attacks that hit both always deal double damage, since both enemies are hit and they share the same health bar. But as I said, try to have Monoco cast her ice spell again as quickly as possible to slow the enemies down twice, since they also receive double status effects because there are two of them. Yeah, otherwise the fight is relatively long and drawn out, but you can block gradient attacks pretty well. The important thing is to always attack the one on the left, so that the one on the right doesn't use his healing move. Yeah, and of course use Gomage with Maelle to deal some solid damage here. For me, you'll be playing through about 7 to 8 pauses. Maybe you've even upgraded it a bit better than I have. And once you've done that, you'll get the trophy. Everything comes to an end, friends. And so this guide is also coming to an end, and we're almost finished. In the next guide, we'll cover 2 more main levels and then wrap up the remaining trophies. There really isn't much left to collect now. You should still have a few trophies left, maybe 5 or 4. Of course, all the music albums, all the diaries and things like that. And there's also a trophy for the final level. So for everything we can still collect, make sure to talk to the Mist Woman here again. You'll get a few more rewards. And next time, we'll go into Renoir's Designs, which is the second to last level, and after that we'll do Alt Lumiere, the very last level. So friends, until then, I'll hurry up. See you next time. Take care, adios, and ciao ciao.